The glass nearly slipped from Leonard's Whitmer hand. He hadn't seen Amara Bellamy in 6 years. And now, without warning, she was back, not alone, not angry, just calm and carrying the greatest secret of his life. He stepped closer, his heart pounded, his throat tightened, because staring into the eyes of those children, he saw his dimples, his smile, his entire future. And that's when it hit him. He had a family and didn't even know it. But before we dive into the full story, tell me, where are you watching from and what time is it right now? If you enjoy stories about family, redemption, and second chances, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and comment below with your location. Your support helps us bring even more powerful stories to life, and trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Mr. Leonard, your table is ready. The maitre d's voice cut through the soft hum of clinking glasses and string quartet music at Lucille, the kind of rooftop restaurant where billion-dollar deals were disguised as birthday dinners and egos wore Armani suits. Leonard Whitmer didn't even blink as he followed the man through the opulent dining room. Every head turned. People knew who he was, billionaire, CEO, the man who turned Leonard Dynamics into a tech empire. On paper, he had everything. But tonight, his gut twisted in ways no contract ever had. He adjusted his cufflinks, and that's when he saw her, 3 tables away. Table 14, the curve of her jaw, the way her hair curled softly, now shorter, freer. It was unmistakable. Amara Bellamy, she was laughing. The sound hadn't changed. It still made his chest tighten like it used to. But now 3 children sat around her, their laughter bouncing off the marble walls like wind chimes. A little boy and 2 girls, around 5, maybe 6. Whitmer's breath caught. Something about them made the world tilt. The boy's sharp chin, the way one of the girls tilted her head when she smiled. The other had eyes that mirrored his own. Steel gray. No way. He collapsed into his seat a little too hard. Across from him, Lydia Harper, his longtime assistant, raised an eyebrow. "Sir, you look like you've seen a ghost." He didn't answer. He couldn't stop staring. "That's Amara," Lydia said after following his gaze. Her voice dropped. Amara Bellamy. Of course it was, his ex-wife, the woman he let walk away, no, the woman he pushed away. It had been 6 years since the divorce. He hadn't heard from her since, hadn't tried. Until now he hadn't realized what he might have missed. Whitmer stood abruptly, knocking over his water glass. It shattered at his feet. He didn't even blink. He walked not out, but toward her. "Whitmer." Her voice was calm, careful, but not warm. One of the girls looked up at him. "Mommy, who's that?" "Just someone Mommy used to know," Amara replied softly, placing a protective hand on the little boy's back. Whitmer's eyes darted between their faces. Noah, he would learn later. That was the boy's name. But right now, his own name was lost on his tongue. "Are they?" he started, but the words refused to finish themselves. "They're mine," Amara said. "Not ours, not mine and yours, just mine." But that wasn't an answer, not really. "Amara, are they?" Her posture changed instantly. Defensive, strong. "We're having dinner, Whitmer, please. You can't just—" "I can," she cut in. "And I did, because you chose your empire, you chose silence, you changed your number, your assistant, what was her name, Cynthia. She returned my letters and told me you didn't want to be reached." Whitmer blinked. "That's not." "It is." He looked at the boy again, his jaw, his eyes. His expression when he tried to cut a steak by himself. It was like watching his 5-year-old self at Sunday brunch. "Do they have names?" Whitmer asked, voice cracking. Amara hesitated, then exhaled. "The boy is Noah, the girls are Alina and Sierra." He froze. Noah, his grandfather's name, a name he hadn't said aloud in over a decade. She remembered. "They're beautiful," he whispered. "They're happy," she countered, eyes steady. "Without you." Whitmer wanted to say 1,000 things, explanations, apologies, questions, but all he could do was nod. She reached into her purse and pulled out a card. "Call me tomorrow, my office number, not for me, for them if you're serious, if you're ready to be something besides a title on a Forbes list." He took the card like it might burn him. That night, Whitmer didn't go home. He walked past the law school where they used to sneak sandwiches into the library, past the dive bar where he first told her he loved her, past the church steps where they'd sat in their secondhand wedding clothes and dreamt about building something together. He had built something, just not the thing that mattered. The next morning, he walked into his office before sunrise. Lydia was already there, coffee in hand. She paused when she saw him. 5 years ago, Whitmer said without greeting, "Did Amara try to contact me?" Lydia swallowed. "Yes, sir." Several times, he stared at her. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" "You were unreachable," she said carefully. "You'd hired Cynthia Wells. She screened everything. She said you wanted no personal distractions after the divorce." "I want every letter, every voicemail, every email, everything she ever sent." "Yes, Mr. Leonard." That night, Whitmer sat alone in his penthouse. The city sprawled below, glittering and empty. In his hands, a letter, handwritten, torn at the edge. Smudged like she'd cried while writing it. "You don't owe me anything. I'm not asking for child support or to come back. I think you should know, because one day they'll ask, and I want to be able to say I tried to tell you." His hands trembled, all his skyscrapers, boardroom victories, magazine covers, none of it compared to what he had lost. Noah, Alina, Sierra, 3 little names, 3 entire lives, and he had missed all of it. But maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late to be the man they could call dad. The next morning, Leonard Whitmer stared at himself in the mirror. Dark circles, tired eyes, an unfamiliar look of hesitation. He'd been called ruthless, calculated, efficient, but today he was none of those things. He was just unsure. For the first time in years, he wasn't preparing for a boardroom battle, a televised keynote, or a fortune interview. He was preparing to knock on the door of a woman he used to love, and maybe, just maybe, the lives of 3 children who didn't even know he existed. At 1:00 p.m. sharp, he stood outside the modest law office of Bellamy and Associates. No glass skyscraper, no sleek lobby. Just a second-floor walk-up with potted plants and sun-faded signs. The kind of place that told you the people inside cared more about people than prestige. It was so Amara. The receptionist smiled warmly. "Mr. Leonard, she's expecting you. Down the hall, last office on the right." He walked the hallway slowly. Past framed degrees, children's drawings, and handwritten thank you notes from past clients. This wasn't just a workplace, it was a mission. He knocked once. Her voice came through the door, steady. "Come in." Amara was at her desk, reading over a case file, glasses perched low on her nose. She looked up as he entered. "You came." Whitmer nodded. "Did you think I wouldn't?" She shrugged. "I didn't know. The Whitmer I married would have moved mountains. The Whitmer you became." "I wasn't sure." He sat across from her. No suit jacket today, no tie, just a man trying to figure out what redemption looks like. "I found out about Cynthia," he said quietly. "About the letters, the calls." Amara looked at him measured. "Does it change anything?" "Changes everything." Whitmer's voice cracked. He took a breath. "I thought you moved on. I thought you were better off without me." "I was," she said, "but that didn't mean I didn't try." For them, as she opened a drawer and slid a photo album across the desk. He hesitated, then flipped it open. 3 tiny faces. First birthdays, finger paint smudges, Halloween costumes, Christmas mornings, lost teeth, laughter. "Who's who?" he whispered. "That's Alina," Amara said softly, pointing to a little girl with oversized glasses and a crayon in her hand. "She's the artist, draws everything she sees." Sierra is the explorer. She asks questions no adult can answer. And Noah, he's a peacemaker, always putting others first, always watching, just like you used to. Whitmer couldn't speak. His throat tightened around every word that tried to come. "They've asked about their dad," Amara said quietly. "I never lied. I told them you were someone I loved once, but you couldn't stay. I didn't know. I tried to tell you. I know that now." The silence between them wasn't angry. It was heavy, like the weight of 5 lost years pressing down on the space between 2 people who used to share everything. "I want to know them," Whitmer finally said. Amara looked at him, skeptical. "I mean really know them, not just visit on birthdays or send gifts. I want to be part of their lives. I want to earn that right." She didn't answer right away. Then she pulled open a file drawer and retrieved 3 slim folders. Each one had a name written in careful handwriting. Noah, Alina, Sierra. These are their medical histories, school reports, preferences, allergies, bedtime routines. Everything you need to know before you even think about showing up. Whitmer reached for the folders like they were made of glass. "There's more," Amara continued. "Noah has soccer practice every Tuesday and Thursday. Alina has art class Wednesdays. Sierra just got into the gifted science program at her school. They have a routine, a rhythm. I'll make time." "That's not good enough." Whitmer met her eyes. "I'm stepping back from day-to-day operations," he said. "Effective this week. I've already notified my VPs. The company doesn't need me every second of the day, but they might." Amara blinked. "You're really doing this?" He nodded. "I've built 100 things. None of them mattered as much as this." She studied him carefully. "Okay, but you're not meeting them tomorrow or next week." "I'll wait. As long as it takes. As long as it takes. Over the next few weeks." Whitmer studied those folders like they were billion-dollar contracts. He learned Noah loved dinosaurs, especially the velociraptor. Alina had asthma and a deep fear of thunderstorms. Sierra once tried to microwave an egg just to see what would happen. He sent anonymous donations to their school, an art studio upgrade, science lab equipment, new soccer jerseys. Amara knew it was him. "They're excited," she told him over coffee one day. "Alina's already filled 2 new sketchbooks. Sierra says the microscope is better than the one at the Science Museum. And Noah, he wants to thank whoever donated the new soccer balls in person." Whitmer smiled. "Someday, maybe," she said, "if you keep showing up." Their weekly coffee meetings became the new normal. No yelling, no old wounds reopened. Just 2 people rediscovering trust, one latte at a time. One afternoon, Amara pulled out her phone. "Alina made this yesterday. It was a drawing. 3 children holding hands with a tall man whose face was incomplete. She said she's waiting to finish the eyes until she meets you again." "For real?" And Whitmer's heart clenched. "Tell her," he said, "that I'll be ready when she is." It was a rainy Saturday afternoon when it finally happened. Noah, Alina, and Sierra were standing in front of the school auditorium, dressed in hand-sewn animal costumes for their class play The Three Little Pigs, and Leonard Whitmer was in the back row, alone, hat low, eyes wide, watching, heart pounding. He wasn't supposed to be there, not officially. Amara had texted him, "They don't know you're coming, but I thought you should see." He'd shown up an hour early and sat quietly, tucked into the corner like a man hoping to disappear into a world he no longer belonged to. But when the curtain rose and Noah stepped forward as the narrator, Whitmer's mask slipped. That voice, that same steady tone Whitmer had used in debate class in high school, that spark of leadership, unmistakable. Alina was pig hash too, her costume slightly too big, her sketchbook poking out from behind the hay bale prop. Sierra, ever the scientist, was pig hash 3 and delivered her lines like she was presenting to NASA. They were brilliant. Whitmer didn't move, couldn't breathe. This wasn't just a school play. This was their world, and for the first time he was on the outside looking in. After the final bow, he slipped out unnoticed, walking past balloons and proud parents and juice boxes. But Amara was already waiting by his car. "She saw you," she said softly. "Alina," she knew. He didn't answer. "She wants to meet you." His breath hitched. "Not as mommy's old friend," she added. "Not as a stranger, as her dad." That Sunday, Whitmer met them at the botanical garden. He wore jeans, sneakers, left his watch at home. It was awkward at first. Noah sized him up like a referee at a chess match. Alina held onto her sketchpad like a shield. Sierra didn't speak for a full 5 minutes, just watched him. But then he knelt beside the koi pond and asked, "What do you think would happen if I tickled one of those fish?" Sierra blinked. "You'd disrupt the oxygen levels and possibly trigger a territorial response." He chuckled, spoken like a true scientist. From that moment something shifted. Over the weeks, visits turned into routines. Tuesdays meant pizza and board games at Amara's place. Whitmer never stayed past bedtime. Saturdays were museum days. Sierra loved the space exhibit, Noah preferred fossils, and Alina sketched everything, sometimes even him, from behind when she thought he wasn't looking. He was rebuilding, one laugh, one story, one awkward, beautiful moment at a time. But not everyone was ready for that. One chilly Thursday morning, Whitmer received a call. His mother's voice crackled through the speaker. "You're what?" "I'm stepping away from the company indefinitely. I want to be present with my children." A long silence. Then, "Whitmer, this is madness. You don't owe her anything. She left. She disappeared. If those children were yours, don't you think we should have known? They are mine. DNA doesn't mean destiny. You're a Leonard. You have a name to protect, a future to maintain." He exhaled sharply. "If I have to choose between the Leonard legacy and my children, I choose them every time." That weekend, the storm arrived, both literally and emotionally. The wind howled through the trees as Whitmer knocked on Amara's door, soaked and breathless. "They came to my office," he said. "My parents. They threatened to challenge custody, said they'd use their lawyers, their money." Amara's eyes flashed. "They still think they own you." "I told them no. I told them to stay out of it." She sighed. "They won't. I don't care. Let them come. I'm not walking away again." Just then a loud wheeze came from upstairs. Amara's face went pale. Alina. They ran up the stairs. Alina was curled in bed, clutching her chest. Her face was flushed, her breathing. "She's having an asthma attack," Amara gasped. "I left her inhaler. I've got it." Whitmer sprinted to his car, grabbed the spare inhaler Amara had given him just in case, and flew back up the stairs. He held Alina's tiny hand as she steadied her breath. When she opened her eyes, dazed and weak, she whispered, "Daddy." He blinked. "Yes, baby, I'm here," and that was it. Everything else, the business empire, the board votes, the luxury cars, none of it mattered. Just her voice, just that one word, "Daddy." That night they stayed at the hospital. Whitmer slept in the visitor chair. Sierra curled up against his side. Noah sat by his sister's bed, holding her hand. Amara walked in quietly, a coffee in each hand. She placed one by his arm, then whispered, "They're not afraid anymore." He looked at her. "I mean it," she added. "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." But outside those hospital walls, trouble brewed. The Leonards weren't letting go easily. And Whitmer knew, if he wanted to truly protect this fragile new family, he'd have to fight harder than ever before. The hospital air still carried the faint scent of antiseptic and rain when Leonard Whitmer stepped out into the corridor, his tie loose, eyes bloodshot. Amara followed behind, arms crossed, guarded. "You okay?" she asked. "No," he replied truthfully, "but I'm not backing down." She studied him for a long moment. "They'll come for you, Whitmer. And when they can't tear you down, they'll come for the kids." He didn't flinch. "Then let them come." 3 days later, Leonard Estate, Westchester County. The family estate was exactly as Whitmer remembered it, grand, cold, and built more for appearances than love. He parked outside the iron gate and walked up the gravel path, fists clenched in his coat pockets. Inside, the chandelier sparkled like judgment. His mother, Vivian Leonard, was already seated in the drawing room, pearls tight around her throat. His father, Charles Leonard, stood by the fireplace with a tumbler of scotch, same as always. "You've lost your mind," Charles began, no greeting. Vivian's voice followed like ice water. "You're willing to throw away your legacy for some children you didn't even know existed until 5 minutes ago." Whitmer stood tall. "They are my legacy." Vivian scoffed. "Your name, Whitmer, that's your legacy, your position, the company." "The company will survive without me," he interrupted. "But my children won't, not if I let you sink your claws into their lives." "You sound emotional," Charles sneered. "Weak." "I sound like a father," Whitmer snapped. "The kind you never were." The words hung in the air like gunfire. Silence. Charles's jaw clenched. Vivian's eyes widened. "I was never the man I should have been because I didn't know what that looked like," Whitmer said, softer now. "But now I do. And I won't let you rewrite their lives with the same cold ink you used on mine." Vivian set down her teacup with a delicate clink. "Then we'll take this to court." Charles added, "We have the lawyers, the influence, the judges." "You also have a past," Whitmer said calmly, pulling out a sealed envelope. "And if you try to destroy what I'm building, I won't hesitate to open it." Charles's face darkened. "What is that?" "Proof of how you funneled company funds into shell accounts, the offshore deals, the bribes. You wouldn't dare." "I would. If it meant protecting Noah, Alina, and Sierra, I'd burn this entire dynasty to the ground." That night, Whitmer sat on a park bench in Harlem, the city lights twinkling around him like silent witnesses. Amara joined him, silent for a long while. Finally, she asked, "You good?" He nodded slowly. "I told them everything, drew the line," and they blinked. Amara smiled, sad but proud. "That's a start." 2 weeks later, family meeting. They met at a neutral space, a community center where Amara volunteered. Vivian Leonard entered the room cautiously. No chauffeur, no designer sunglasses, just a woman unaccustomed to humility. Charles didn't come. Vivian sat across from Amara and the children. Noah looked confused. Alina clutched her sketch pad again. Sierra stared at her like a biologist studying a new species. "I want to apologize," Vivian said stiffly. Alina tilted her head. "For what?" Vivian hesitated. "For not believing in you and your father, for trying to interfere." Whitmer watched the interaction like a tightrope act. One wrong move and the whole thing would collapse. "I didn't grow up with hugs or bedtime stories," Vivian continued. "Your grandfather believed softness was weakness. I believed it too, until now." Sierra folded her arms. "Are you going to be nice to mommy?" Vivian blinked. "Yes, I'm trying." Alina opened her sketchbook and slid it across the table. It was a drawing of their family, 6 figures, Amara, Whitmer, the kids, and Vivian. "Do you want to be in our next one?" she asked. Vivian swallowed hard. "I'd like that." 1 month later, family day at school. The auditorium buzzed with laughter, glitter, and the smell of baked goods. Whitmer walked hand in hand with Noah and Sierra, while Alina led Vivian toward the bake sale table. Amara stood near the art exhibit, chatting with other parents. She looked up and smiled at Whitmer, a real, unguarded smile. He returned it, warmth blooming in his chest. Then the intercom crackled. "Attention everyone, please gather in the gym. Today's student performances are about to begin." Inside the gym, the kids took their places on stage. Sierra gave a speech about planets and empathy. Noah narrated a story about teamwork. Alina held up a drawing of her family and introduced them to the school. "And this," she said proudly, "is my dad. He used to be a boss of a company. Now he's just our boss." Laughter. Applause. Whitmer's eyes misted. He didn't care that he was no longer CEO. He had a better title now, Dad, but trouble wasn't done yet. One evening, as Whitmer and Amara picked up the kids from school, a sleek black car rolled to a stop across the street. A woman stepped out, tall, blonde, designer heels, Madison Royce, Whitmer's ex-fiancée, and the last person Amara ever wanted to see. "Hello, Whitmer," Madison purred. "Long time." Amara tensed beside him. "Madison, what are you doing here?" Madison smiled, eyes flicking to the children. "I heard you've been playing daddy." Then, to Amara, she added, "You always were good at keeping secrets, weren't you?" The storm was back, but this time, it had a new face. Madison Royce never did subtle. As she crossed the street toward Whitmer and Amara, her designer heels clicked against the pavement like a countdown. Her platinum hair caught the golden hour light, but her smile, that was pure ice. Whitmer instinctively stepped in front of the kids. "I wasn't expecting you," he said coldly. "You never do," Madison replied smoothly, then glanced at Amara. "Though I see you've downgraded." Before Amara could respond, Sierra tugged her hand. "Mommy, who is she?" Amara knelt down and smiled. "Just a chapter your daddy should have closed a long time ago." Madison's eyes flashed, still sharp-tongued. "I see." Whitmer cut in. "Madison, say what you came to say, then leave." "Oh, Whitmer, don't be so dramatic." She pulled out an envelope. "I'm just here to let you know I filed a civil suit." His jaw tensed. "For what?" "Breach of promise, defamation, emotional damage," she said, waving the papers like a victory flag. You left me a week before the wedding and now parading around with this family. The tabloids are already salivating. The media storm begins. By morning, headlines screamed across the internet. Billionaire CEO's secret family exposed by jilted fiancé. Madison Royce files $10 million suit against Leonard Whitmer. Every outlet wanted a piece. Cameramen parked outside Amara's apartment. Reporters waited outside the kids' school. Even Vivian called in a panic, demanding Whitmer control the narrative. But Whitmer had no interest in narratives. He had a family to protect. Backlash and doubt. It wasn't just the press. Parents at school started whispering. Some kids teased Noah. One boy said, "Your dad buys love." Alina punched him in the nose. Amara got called in. Whitmer sat beside her during the meeting, feeling like a failure. Later that night, as they sat in her kitchen, she broke the silence. "You didn't tell me you left Madison at the altar. I didn't think it mattered anymore. It does when your silence becomes my consequence." Whitmer winced. "I was trying to protect you then. But now we're all exposed." He looked at her pained. "Do you regret letting me in?" Amara was quiet for a moment. "No, but I do wish I'd prepared better. For the wreckage you carry." Turning the tables. Whitmer called a press conference. He didn't wear a suit. No publicist. Just him standing on the steps of Leonard Industries with a mic. "I have no intention of hiding anymore," he said. "The children you've seen on your screens, they are my children, and the woman you've dragged through the mud, she is the mother of my kids. She is the reason I learned how to live." He paused, steady. "As for MS Royce's lawsuit, there are two sides to every story. I may have left her, but it was to save both of us from a marriage built on status, not substance." He looked directly into the cameras. "This isn't damage control, this is truth." The past re-emerges. Later that week, a surprise arrived at Amara's door. A woman, late 40s, worn but dignified. "My name's Lena Leonard," she said softly. "I'm Whitmer's sister." Amara blinked. "I thought he was an only child." "He thinks so too," Lena replied. Inside, Lena explained their father, Charles, had a child from an affair decades ago. When Vivian found out, she made Charles cut ties. "Whitmer doesn't know I exist," Lena said, "but I've been following his story. I think it's time he learned the full truth about our family." Reckoning, Whitmer was stunned. "You're my sister." Lena nodded. "Half, but I've lived long enough to know half doesn't matter when there's heart." She handed him a letter written by Charles years ago but never sent. "If you're reading this, I'm probably gone. I failed you, Whitmer. I failed her too, but don't make my mistake. Don't let pride cost you love." Whitmer stared at the words. His whole life he'd chased legacy, a name, a company, a reputation. And now, piece by piece, it was unraveling, but something else was forming in its place. A family, real, messy, unscripted, a turning point for Amara. Amara sat alone on her porch that evening. Madison's lawsuit had been dismissed, but the emotional residue remained. Whitmer joined her, wordless at first. Finally, he said, "You were right about everything." Amara looked over. "I wasn't trying to be." He took a deep breath. "I don't want to fix things, I want to rebuild, with you, as a team, whatever that looks like." She nodded slowly. "Then let's start by being honest. No more secrets, no more protective silence." They sat together under the stars, not lovers, not exes, just two people trying to figure out how to co-parent in the chaos of a story still unfolding. Back at school, a milestone. It was Parent Career Day. Noah went up and said proudly, "My dad used to be a boss of a big company, but now he works for us." The class laughed. Sierra added, "And mommy is the best artist. She paints joy." Alina smiled and whispered to her siblings, "We're gonna be okay." And for the first time, Whitmer believed it too. But one more challenge was on the horizon. A letter arrived, this time from Vivian, handwritten. "If you want to protect your children, you'll meet me at the estate, alone, midnight." What did she mean by protect? What was she hiding? And what secrets from the Leonard past still lingered, waiting to surface? It was 11:52 p.m. Whitmer stood outside the Leonard estate, the same estate he once called home, the place that raised him to be powerful and painfully distant. The iron gates creaked open like a whisper from the past. Inside, the chandeliers were dimmed, and Vivian Leonard waited alone, seated by the fire, wearing her signature pearls and an unreadable expression. "I didn't think you'd come," she said softly. "I almost didn't," Whitmer replied, closing the door behind him. "What do you want?" Vivian poured herself tea, Earl Grey, no sugar, then looked up with tired eyes. "To ask for forgiveness before it's too late. A mother's regret." Vivian motioned toward a box beside her. Inside were faded photographs, sealed letters, a worn-out baby blanket, and one document that shook Whitmer. A trust revocation. Vivian had legally cut Lena Leonard out of any inheritance the day after she was born. "I couldn't face the shame," she said, voice trembling. "Your father had an affair. I stayed for you, but I made him erase her. You made him erase his daughter. I made him erase part of himself." Tears welled in her eyes. "And in doing that, I erased part of you too." Whitmer's hands shook as he held the document. "You always taught me to be strong," he said, "but never to be whole, breaking generational chains." Vivian stood, slower than he remembered her. I called you here not just to confess, but to return what was stolen. She handed him another envelope. Inside, a secondary trust fund untouched since 1994 under the name Lena Claire Leonard. She deserves to know she mattered. Whitmer looked at his mother for the first time not as an heir, but as a son who had never been hugged enough. Do you think it's too late to start over? Vivian asked. No, he whispered, but it's too late for pretending. She smiled weakly. That's a good start. Back at home the morning after. Amara woke up to the smell of pancakes. In the kitchen, Whitmer stood wearing an apron that said Superdad in progress. Vivian confessed, he said, sliding a plate onto the table. Everything about Lena, about why we were raised to be perfect, not present. Amara sipped her coffee. And now, I'm rewriting it all for us, for the kids, even for her. A new kind of family later that week. They hosted family picnic day, a tradition Amara started with the neighborhood moms. Lena arrived first, holding a tray of lemon squares and a shy smile. Vivian followed quietly, carrying juice boxes for the kids. At first no one said much, then Noah ran up and hugged Lena. Are you my auntie now? She nodded tearfully. If you'll have me. Vivian handed Sierra a flower crown. You look like your grandmother, she whispered. Which one? Sierra asked innocently. Vivian smiled. The good one, I'm working on it. The birthday that changed everything. The triplets turned 6. Instead of a lavish venue, Amara and Whitmer hosted the party at the same restaurant where they first reconnected. The place had changed, new chairs, new lighting, but the memories remained. Whitmer stood in front of everyone holding a small box. To my 3 miracles, he began, I've made mistakes, big ones, but this is me making it right. He handed them each a folder. Inside, legal documents giving them the last name Leonard Bellamy officially. You don't need a name to know you're loved, he said, kneeling down, but I want the world to know you're mine, and I'm yours. Legacy rewrit. Weeks later, Whitmer shocked the board of Leonard Industries. I'm stepping down, effective immediately. I'm not leaving behind a company. I'm stepping into my real job, fatherhood. The media exploded. Shareholders panicked, but Whitmer didn't care. He founded a new nonprofit, the Bellamy Foundation, dedicated to supporting single mothers, underprivileged children, and building inclusive community centers across the country. He wasn't chasing headlines anymore. He was building something real. Final reflection. That night, sitting on their porch with Amara beside him, Whitmer looked up at the stars. You know, he said, for the first time in my life, I don't feel like I'm missing anything. Amara smiled. Not even your boardroom. I traded boardrooms for bedtime stories. Best deal I ever made. There was a time I thought success was power, prestige, control. But that version of success cost me years I can't get back, laughter I didn't hear, milestones I missed. It took 3 kids, 1 incredible woman, and the courage to confront my past to learn. Real success is showing up, being present, being human, forgiving even when it hurts, and choosing love again and again even when it's messy, inconvenient, and terrifying. As they all danced under fairy lights, Elena whispered to Amara, Mommy, do you think we'll ever get married again? Amara laughed softly. Why do you ask? Elena shrugged. Because Daddy keeps looking at you like he's already planning it. But Amara just smiled, because sometimes the best stories don't end, they begin again. If you found this story meaningful and want to help us share these important values, please subscribe to our channel. Together we can build a compassionate, justice-driven community, and trust me, you won't want to miss the next powerful story.